Hi there. We're continuing our journey through the Psalms, the Tehillim, and the praises, that means in Hebrew. And we are in Psalm 81, and that is Pe Aleph. Pe is the letter for 80, and Aleph is the Hebrew letter standing for 1. So Pe Aleph. So this is Lam Natseach again, to the chief musician. Its melody or its style is Al Gitit. And Gittit could be a song about the vintage, it could be about the harvest, it could be about a particular instrument, it could be connected with a particular place. We're not quite certain, but the melody is Gittit. And it's an Asaphic psalm. It's connected with the leader of one of the leaders of the Tabernacle Choir in David, and also of his descendants probably. So that's the superscription here, and it's a festive song. It's a song probably connected with one of the great festivals. It's been suggested it might be Passover, but actually most likely to be the festival of tabernacles, of Sukkot, because Sukkot is the festival that is connected most with joy, and it starts off with a joyful expression: sing aloud to God our strength, make a joyful noise to the God of Jacob. It's talking about these instruments. Bring musical instruments. Bring a tuf, which is a drum, a little drum, a tambour. Make a sound on the harp. Blow the trumpet in the new moon, it says in verse 3. Now, if it is tabernacles it's talking about, then the new moon of that particular month is the Rosh Hashanah, is the Feast of Trumpets, is the start of the civil year. And so it could be that this is following on that, on this, what it calls a solemn feast day. This was a statute for Israel, it says, and the law of God for Jacob. So it's referring to something that's been established by the Torah, and therefore the link to the festival. And then he said that this was because this was ordained as a witness, as a record for Joseph, one of the tribes of Israel. This was set in as a record of what God had done for his people, and that's why the joy, that's why the rejoicing, because of as a testimony to God's dealings with them. And it resulted in the shoulder being relieved from the burden. All that hard work that they were under, the having to make the pots, having been in slavery in Egypt, was all removed from them. And it says that you called me in trouble, you called to me in trouble, says the Lord, and I delivered you. There's something prophetic about this song. This is very possibly a song of a prophet that is being sung, because he's talking in the place of God here to his people and saying, I delivered you, I set you free, I answered you in the thunder, and I tested you, I tried you at Merivah, the place where the people grumbled against God. And then there's a pause for a musical interlude, a pause for thought here. And then it says that then the prophet singer is saying, listen, my people, and listen to me. This is what was laid down. There will be no strange God, El Zar, no strange God among you, no foreign God will be found among you. Of course, God demands, wants our total unrivaled affection, and he calls this to his people. There are to be no other rivals to come for our affections against him. And he says, because I am the Lord your God that brought you out of Egypt. And then it says, therefore open your mouth wide and I will fill it. Remember that in the desert God actually fed his people and he gave them water. He's saying again, open your mouth wide, I will fill it. This is what he said to his people. But, the big but, there's always a but in this story, isn't there? People wouldn't listen. Israel wouldn't listen, and he gave them over to their own devices. He gave them over to their own sinful waywardness. And then he says, Luami Shamali, would that my people had listened to me. Would that they had heard what I was saying and walked in my ways. And it would have been so different, the singer says. The prophet singer says, I could have subdued their enemies. I could have seen off those who were opposing them, and those who hated me would have submitted, and they would have gone on indefinitely. There would have been indefinite time and indefinite length to their freedom if they had followed me. And and then this last verse, I would have fed them with the finest of wheat and with davash mitzur, with honey from the rock. Imagine that, honey out of the rock, just as water out of the rock, but honey out of the rock. I would have satisfied you. So there's this sadness in God's heart, sadness in the prophet's heart at the time of this great joy, at the time when they're rejoicing, saying, yes, but actually it could have been so much greater if we hadn't had this altercation, if we hadn't had this struggle between the people and God. It's an invitation to us, this psalm, to rejoice, to be thankful for God coming to us in the tabernacle of God, which is now in Jesus. Jesus is the meeting place of heaven and earth. But we don't want to be like those who were in the desert, who stood against God, who had a stiff neck. We want to be those who follow him wholeheartedly and who can experience the good things that God has, the finest of wheat and the honey from the rock. Have a good day.